Cool. All right, so we're on modules now. So we finished up our frozen set, all of our set stuff. And again, keep in mind the difference between lists, tuples, and sets. That tuples are immutable, sets are mutable, but the stuff inside of them is not. So now we're on modules. Modules are really useful, okay? Modules actually will, you can get more tools from someplace else, right? This would be like somebody else has made tools that you're going to use over and over again. Many of them come with Python already, or you can actually create your own. If you're like, you know what, I'm probably going to use these kinds of functions often, right? If I'm making a function that does something that I know I'm going to need to use frequently, right? It's sort of like copy pasting. Moving modules around is also really important as your projects get really big, okay? Because most Python projects, like when we get to Flask in a little bit, Flask it allows you to use Python to make websites and back-end stuff, and we'll get to that as we go. But eventually you're going to have documents that will have thousands of lines of code, right? And you're going to want that code to talk to each other, but what if you have a problem? You have no idea where that is. You've got thousands of lines of code you've got to work through, right? So instead, if you say, you know what, I'm going to take most of the things that do this job and put them on this page, on this Python document, and then I have a lot of functions that do this other thing, I'm going to put them in here, right? Using things this way, the problem is that if they're not all on the same page, you have to move things around. And so making them into modules and sending them from place to place can be really, really valuable. And so that's what we're going to be working on here. This is important later on. Okay, it won't be important much this week or next week, but past that, once you guys get to Flask especially, the idea of moving data around from document to document, super important. So you will come back to this eventually, and you will really need this. Okay. In the meantime, we're going to look at some kind of more fun examples of this, really mild ones. One of the modules that comes with Python installed on your computer is math. Okay, and this is for functions that maybe we don't use every day, and they're not necessarily Python built-ins, but somebody went and made a function and optimized it so that we can draw from that, and then it came with Python now. So, and by came with Python, it's installed on your computer. But if I try to write print pi, right? I have no idea what that is. Okay, so but pi is something that ends up coming with our math import. So we're going to say from math import pi. Okay, and then now when I print pi, now it spits it out. Pretty convenient. What if you want to import multiple modules? Well, you could do this, right? And say, I want floor. And then you could have print floor pi. And that'll work fine. And floor does the same thing. You remember we had this function earlier where it would just round down from whatever it is. Okay, it does the same thing. It just does this in a different way. We don't have to use division, that kind of a deal. We just take whatever number you put in it and round it down. Okay. You could also, there's also like square root functions. There's all kinds of, if you're doing more mathematical nerdy stuff, then math is great. I'm a big math fan. My sister's an engineer. But anyways, it's just fun to pick on people. I'm a programmer, right? I can call whoever I want to a nerd. But so we got math import pi, math import floor. Well, if I want to do these in the same line, right, you could say from math import pi and floor, and the exact same thing will work. Okay. You could also just say import math. Okay, and it still runs just fine, right? Everybody's happy. The thing is, sometimes you end up with these modules that are huge, right? They got lots of functions, lots of stuff available. And you only want a couple of them. And it takes a second. It adds time, especially when you have really massive projects you're working on, right? Like imagine if every single Google page imported every tool that Google uses for that page. You know what I mean? Like that's tons of stuff, right? They've got thousands of employees working on this kind of thing. So you don't want to have all that every time. You want to keep your code smooth and kind of minimalized. So you could just do import math, or the better way would be import the specific packages, the specific things that you want, the functions you want, floor and pi. And again, math is going to be another module, right? It'll be a Python document, right? So somewhere out there's math.py, and then there's a function called floor. and there's a function called pi, or a variable called pi. And those are the specific things that we're now pulling from that document instead of all the other functions that we're not even using. Okay, we have a function called floor that takes something in and does something. We can actually, here, let's check this out. Go away. Also, I don't know why I suddenly have a little yellow thing. Maybe it helps. Import floor pi. Oh, from math. There we go. Okay, floor takes exactly what, and now it's mad. Let's see. What will this do? Okay, so you say, hey, what does this do, right? And it will say it will take x and something else. Return the floor of x as an integral. This is the largest integer less than or equal to x. Okay, so again, you can always use help to figure out what it is that's really going on there. I'm going to uncomment these, and we'll go back. Our noisy chair. Methods only. Okay, so you can actually, oh, there we go. We already talked about this. Anyways, this is the from someplace, import something, right? So this would be, you could just import math. If I wanted just the modules, from math, import floor pi. That's not right. That's not the right syntax. Floor pi. All right, there we go. And now those will come, and we can do it anyways. Print pi, and life is groovy. Cool. So using the as keyword, you can rename these things in case you want to make it shorter. Often this is done with data packages and modules. So we could have from math import floor as f, pi as p, and now we could say print f p, and we end up getting 3. All we did was just renamed floor f, and that just made it a little bit simpler. This can also be helpful if you have a function that you name floor on your document, right? But you import floor, and so now you need to name it something else because you need to just be clear to your program what you actually want to call on. So keeping those things separate can be really valuable. Creating a module. So in our downloads for today, you should have seen module.py, right? Very simple. It's literally just these 2 lines. Okay, it's a function that takes a name, and then it prints it back out. Hello, Mr. or Miss Name. We've been waiting for you. Okay, so we're going to end up actually importing that in here. So again, the document is called module.py. So we're going to say import module, and then we're going to print module.printName. And again, this dot means we're looking inside of module for the function for the item print name, and we're going to put the name Brandon in there. You can put your name if you'd like to. Hello, Mr. or Miss Brandon. We've been waiting for you. And it doesn't return anything. So pretty straightforward, right? But again, we've named this print name. If I change the name of this to print your name, please, right? I would have to change this over here because now it will not, well, I got to save it. Okay, and now if I do it, it should be cranky. Well, I guess it still worked. It's interesting. I probably have this. I think I have this saved somewhere else on my computer. But that's the idea, is that you would theoretically have to change this to something else. You could also have from module import print name, and that would also work, right? If you only wanted that one function, let's say that this module, for example, had thousands of functions useful for the specific thing that you're working on, the specific thing you're working on, then you could use that. You'd have print name, and that would be groovy, and then you'd only pick the one thing. Okay, so there you go. Nice little 10 minutes on modules. That's how that works. Again, not super immediate. I mean, we're gonna have obviously make a module tonight, and or for your assignment, and import it into Jupyter Notebook. But this will be something you might forget about by the time that it actually comes back. So again, once we get to Flask, reviewing how to make and use modules will be very important. Exercises for tonight. It could be the morning. I don't know. Whenever you're doing this, right? The future. Okay. So exercises number 1: build a shopping cart. You can use either lists or dictionaries, either one. The program should have the following capabilities. You should be able to take in some input. It should store the user input into a dictionary or list. You already know how to do these things. The user can add or delete items. You want the user to be able to tell it what to do. Okay, so you should ask, do you want to add something? Do you want to delete something? Do you want to show what's in the cart? So you can see the current shopping list if they put in show. The program loops until the user quits. Right? If the user types quit, then it should end. Right? Again. There's a spicy hint. Right? That until word. Okay? And upon quitting the program, print out all the items in the user's list. Okay, so when they quit, then spit it all out, show us what they have, so that they can kind of check out. Right? This is a fun one. It's kind of like real life, and you can get bonus points for going above and beyond here very easily. Lots of cool ideas you could incorporate to make it more like a real life shopping experience. Right? You can come up with something really novel and pitch it to Amazon. Alrighty, and then create a module in VS Code and import it into Jupyter Notebook. So the module should have the following capabilities. It has a function to calculate the square footage of a house, right? So again, area or square footage is just length times width. So you're just going to say, hey, give me length and width, multiply them and spit it back out again. And then you need to have a function to calculate the circumference of a circle, right? And I think you should all be able to Google how to calculate circumference of a circle and take that information in and spit it back out. So this is Google practice. It's going to be great. You're going to be professional Googlers because sometimes you forget things. You have to search them. Hardly anybody knows an entire language, every single little detail about it, right? And so kind of like, is there anybody that knows all of English? Not many, probably, right? And the words are always changing and being reinvented, that kind of thing. Same thing goes for some of this stuff, right? Obviously, Python doesn't get updated quite as often or as much as English, and is not obviously it doesn't vary based on the region, but the same kind of idea applies, right? And sometimes you need to find something for a specific task, and you need to just Google, how do I use this tool? Is there a tool for this thing? That kind of thing. And so this isn't necessarily a Python Googling assignment, but you do need to be able to search for things like the formula. Need to finish this up. The formula for circumference of a circle, and be able to print that out. So the program in Jupyter Notebook should take in user input and use imported functions. Don't write the functions here. Write the functions in a module and save it in VS Code. And then import those functions to calculate a circle's circumference or a house's square footage. So, should be fun. Off you go. Bye.